Hey, Ed here from 10,000 Foot View, and I've got another Google Ads quick tip for you today. Just before I jump in, a reminder to please subscribe to the channel and like our content. We post about Google Ads at least once every week. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about Google Ads death spirals. And what this means is when you have a campaign or an account that's working really efficiently for some period of time, and then performance just tanks. And I see this a lot on the PPC Reddit sub. I get this a lot from prospective clients that are, desperately reaching out because they had a campaign that worked well for 5 years and now all of a sudden it's just not working at all. And the good news is that I'd say in about 95% of cases that there is a root cause that you can find and that you can fix. So in this video, I'm going to go through the reasons why a death spiral may happen. And I'm also going to post a link to a longer article that I wrote, a companion article that will describe this in a lot more detail. And we'll also go through kind of how you get out of the problem in each instance. Okay, so first off, the important thing to understand is that most advertisers and agencies at this point are using automated bidding. They are using conversion-based smart bidding, as a matter of fact, and they're using broad targeting, which could mean using broad match keywords, and they could be using campaign types such as PMAX, which of course lack transparency and control. So with these various changes that have happened over the past few years, you do need to keep a much more careful watch on the performance of your campaigns and react when there are problems. In the good old days, you had a lot more direct control over things with manual bidding and with lots of insight into search queries and things like that. Not so anymore. Um, but basically, with the way things are right now, you do need to have a lot of consistency with your campaigns, and specifically, that means generating a significant volume of conversions without any major gaps, establishing bidding goals that allow Google to freely spend your budget, providing enough targeting to not be too restrictive, and not making significant or frequent changes to targeting, bid strategies, or budgets. And when you assess performance, assessing it over a longer time frame, looking at several weeks or even months of data, not just looking at like the past week. And that last one's largely because with data-driven attribution and with the automation, there is going to be more variability in performance, and there's going to be deferred conversions, which we call like backfill conversions to the click date. So you do need to look at a longer time frame for doing a proper assessment. So let's move on now. I'm going to look at kind of the reasons for the death spiral. So the first one is running low on conversions. And this can happen for a number of reasons, but often happens when you use a target-based bidding option and Google, you might have like low seasonality or a couple of weeks, just where you maybe have a new competitor that starts on Google Ads, and this can make your performance decline. And if you're using a target-based strategy, you might find that Google all of a sudden starts spending a lot less and less and less and less, and then eventually your campaign could just stop serving completely. So this is where you basically need to keep a close eye on your actual CPA. And if you do see a decline in spending, you need to address that. Tracking outages is the next one, and that can be for a variety of reasons. But obviously, if you have a period of week where you don't track any conversions because the tracking is broken, um, that can cause a sudden downturn in spending, again, depending on what bidding method you use. And at the very least, it's going to confuse the bidding algorithm. So you might just see like really bad performance for some period after that before it recovers, assuming you fix the tracking at some point. The next one is over counting conversions. That's kind of the opposite. So there are many reasons for this. Like, for example, you could have visitors hitting the same thank you page several times. So it counts more than one conversion. You could have tracking code installed more than once, so you could have duplication and what have you. But what this will tend to do is, depending on what bidding strategy, you may overspend. Google thinking, hey, like performance is great, so we're just going to spend more and more money, when in fact you're not getting the performance you think you are. The other thing that can happen is Google will just keep raising the bids because it thinks you're achieving a certain target when in fact you're far off from that. Either way, it's bad news. The next one is campaign suspensions, and so the obvious thing here, if your campaign or your account is suspended for several weeks, when you restart that campaign, you might find it just doesn't perform at all like it used to. It can be very sluggish. Usually it will recover in time, but there are some things you can do to expedite that, which again will be in the article that I link here. The next one is kind of, now this is more user imposed, and that could be doubling or having your budget in one big step. So, right, you're spending 1,000 a day and you suddenly cut that in half to 500. Well, Google's going to need at least several weeks to figure that out. So you're much better off just increasing or decreasing your budget 20% at a time once a week. That will be a lot less disruptive, but sometimes you need to do what you need to do. I do understand, but just be aware that that can have a significant effect on performance. The next one is kind of similar, which is changing bidding targets or strategies. And that could be, if you just switch from like a CP, say a target CP of $100 to $50, Google is really going to struggle to kind of get your campaign back in line. You'll probably see a lot less spending as well. So again, just with budgets, you really should only adjust about 20% at a time, about once a week. Then there's just a kind of a whole bunch of different like bad changes you can do to the campaign that will cause disruptions. So one thing is actually sudden market change, and that could be external. If suddenly a new product comes out that is 10 times better than what you offer, you're going to see a big downturn in performance, obviously. Um, so that's kind of it for this. I know I didn't talk much about solutions or a lot of detail, but I have posted the link to the blog post, which does go into those details. Otherwise, this video would have been about 20 minutes long, and I try to keep them short. But anyway, if you are experiencing any trouble with your campaigns, similar to what I've described, do take a look at the article. I hope this tip is helpful. That is it for today, and I will see you next time.